Let's go. We should be live.
Let me refresh until I get mad.
Alright, we should be live. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Geeky Theoreticus podcast. This fine Wednesday. And boy, was I not expecting a certain bomb to drop yesterday, which is the main topic of today's podcast. But anyway, my name is Asmogan, and this is my co-host.
And I am Ludus Infinium.
And today we're going to be mostly talking about the Microsoft acquisition of Activision Blizzard. I did do a GT Lite on this, just reporting on the fact that it happened, but this is going to be a stream where we talk about a lot more of like the speculations for what's going to happen with this acquisition, as well as some of the fallout from it. And yeah, just more or less talking about the good, the bad, and what this could mean going forward, as well as just some of the facts of the matter that I didn't include. Also, there is one update to this situation with the CEO of Activision Blizzard, Bobby Kotick, potentially leaving. We'll get to that, but I find it a bit odd. There's a little bit of counter information, but I will say it's likely he is leaving. But anyway, where should we start, Ludus?
That is up to you. I'm still kind of fucking around with my thing.
Yeah, okay. Alright, so I guess we'll start off by talking about I'll go over just the basics for anybody this is like their first content, like really looking into this. The very first thing to cover with this is just the basics. So Microsoft recently acquired Activision Blizzard for just under $70 billion. Which sounds like such a cartoony number, but it's just scary to see in real cash. But the exact number is $68.7 billion for the acquisition of Activision Blizzard's net worth. So with that acquisition, that means Microsoft now owns the following game franchises. Which this isn't all of them. This is just the ones I could scrub together. They own World of Warcraft, StarCraft, Overwatch, Diablo, Call of Duty, Candy Crush, Crash Bandicoot, Minecraft, Doom, Wolfenstein, Fallout, Elder Scrolls, Halo, Rage, The Outer Worlds, Banjo-Kazooie, Sea of Thieves, Conquer, and the list keeps going. They own a lot of franchises now, and the one I just want to real quick talk about, the Crash Bandicoot one. That has been a staple of the PlayStation for so long. Crash has.
Do we have any comparison to something acquired for $70 billion?
To this level? Not that I'm aware of. Kakpa Destro, welcome to the stream. Do we have any Oh, okay. Oh, that what you were asking out on his web.
Yeah.
Do we have any comparison to something acquired for $70 billion? Not that I'm aware. Certainly not in the gaming industry. This is record-breaking. I don't know if this is a record you want to break. Typically, when you acquire a company, you want to acquire it for as little as possible. But as far as I'm aware, and I could do a quick Google of it. As far as I'm aware, though, there's nothing to this degree has happened. Highest. I'll just go with highest company. Acquisition. Okay, so the largest ever acquisition was in 1999. A takeover of Mannesmann by Vodafone Airtouch PLC. Vodafone Airtouch PLC at 183 billion. 284 billion adjusted for inflation. AT&T appears in these lists and most times with 5 entries for a combined transaction value of 311.4 billion. So there are stuff even bigger, but in terms of the gaming industry,
really.
No. This is the biggest in the gaming sphere. In fact, Microsoft have broken their own record with this. Because they actually set the record for highest acquisition in the gaming sphere with the 7.5 billion acquisition with Bethesda. They literally just broke their own record. Because they set the record with that. That was the biggest cash value acquisition in this sphere. until now, where they have gone all the way up to 70 billion, or just short of 70 billion, with 68.7 billion. So, but if we go outside of the gaming industry, there have been much larger cash grabs for companies, which include the one I just listed with Vodafone Airtouch PLC, with 183 billion in terms of worth, just for inflation. That came to 284 in today's cash, and apparently AT&T got acquired with that, which increased that to 311.4 billion.
Vandrex says, no, last week there was one higher, I think 12 billion. 68.7 greater than 12 billion.
I think he's meaning that their record was taken over by somebody else before they broke their own record.
Bethesda,
Bethesda
yeah, at around 14 billion.
Okay. So 14, is it 12 or is it 14?
Sandrix is saying 12. Mark Oliver St. Lawrence here is saying...
I didn't hear anything about the Zynga thing.
Oh, no, I think it was just saying... oh. I don't know.
In fact, I don't even know the Zynga. Zynga acquisition. Yeah, there was merger arbitrage. Mondays. Take-Two acquires Zynga. Let's see. 12.7 billion, not 14. You're around the right number. You're just too short. Or 1.3 short.
Yeah, 14. He's saying 14 is right.
Not according to these. PocketGamer.biz says 12.7. CNBC says 12.7. The Verge says 13, but they're clearly rounding up.
Yeah.
So even if you round up, it's 13, not 14. But we're splitting hairs over like a single digit here. Granted, a single digit with a lot of zeros after it, but regardless. And it always rolls off the tongue better if you just say like 13 or 12 or 14 billion. It doesn't roll off the tongue as well if you go 12.7, just like with this situation with Microsoft, where we're saying 70 billion even though it's 68.7.
Right.
It just sounds better when you round up to the closest big number. It sounds better. It's not by the most anal. It's not, and by the most anal wordage, it's not the most accurate. But regardless, we're splitting hairs over tomato, pretty much. Regardless, yes, whether so their record previously being broken with the Zynga acquisition, which I just found out about. Interesting. I'm surprised that didn't make big news. Just for the cash amount, I thought that would have at least hit my radar. Whatever. Regardless, the biggest acquisition in the gaming sphere now is indeed also held by Microsoft when it was previously held with the 7.8 billion, taken over by the Zynga situation at just around 12.7 or 13 if you want to round up $1 billion. Regardless. Give me this 0.3 and I am set for life.
Yeah,
I'm sure most
it makes
of us
it
would.
69 billion.
Okay. Alright, so anyway, as I said, I went through the okay, now I've been thrown off. Throwing me off my game. Alright, back on track. So we went over the gist of the acquisition, and I went over basically just a quick list of some of the games that Microsoft now owns, not only with this acquisition, but some previous ones they've also been involved with. So, to get into the more discussion aspect, one thing I kind of want to get into immediately is the Bobby Kotick stuff. Now, in Microsoft's own coverage of this, in their own article, they made it a point to highlight that Bobby Kotick will continue to serve as CEO of Activision Blizzard. Now, in my original reporting, that's what I focused on. Because I thought, for me, I was focusing mostly as an aspect as not only a WoW vet, World of Warcraft vet, but also just a Blizzard vet as a whole. Like, I've been playing Blizzard games since I was a little kid. Like most people, some of my first games were Blizzard games. Like Warcraft 3 was the first video game I ever played. So yeah, it's been the games that they've produced have been a big part of my life. So for me, my hyper focus was from that angle, and I made sure to specify that we're probably and I did even say in that video that even if Kotick does leave, we're not likely to see much in terms of change, because at the end of the day, the reason Microsoft want Activision Blizzard is because of the money they're currently generating. They didn't buy, or to make more. They're not going to lessen the amount of nickel and diming they do. They're not going to go easier on that stuff whatsoever. That's just not in the cards. And I hope no one is thinking that. I hope no one is thinking, "Oh, yay, Microsoft are taking over. Maybe we'll see less grinding, repetitive mechanics in World of Warcraft." No. Oh, Microsoft are taking over. I hope that means we'll see less microtransactions in future Call of Duty games. No. They didn't buy them to make less money. So even if regardless of Bobby Kotick staying or leaving, that's not changing. And I hope no one is banking on that. I really hope so, because it's just naive. But regardless, there has been an update to this particular part of the article where they specified Bobby Kotick will be staying. Apparently, there's been, I call them rumors, because it's, as far as I've seen, it's not confirmed. Of course, there's constant updates going on about the situation, specifically about this detail. But as far as I've seen, there's been no 100% like, yes, Bobby Kotick is indeed no question leaving after the acquisition is finalized. Yeah, I will say this: is it likely, and is it probably going to happen? Absolutely. It's just probably usually when there's an acquisition like this, companies try to avoid as much negative press as possible. So oftentimes what they'll do is and I'm sure most of everybody who will watch this or are watching or in the chat, which there does seem to be a couple other people who have just joined. Mark Oliver here. Welcome to the podcast, as well as Little Miss Cindy. Welcome, guys. But when it comes to these acquisitions, to make it look as positive as possible, the new controlling power tries, and it's kind of creepy. You kind of see this in like when a nation conquers another nation. To avoid the bad press and to avoid pissing off an existing audience, they try and avoid firings, especially mass ones, because you start doing that, it immediately like gives you the silhouette of like the conqueror, or the evil tyrant taking over, and they want to avoid that bad press as much as possible. So what they're probably going to end up doing is giving Bobby Kotick a golden parachute and pushing him out. And with under the guise of, oh, he's just choosing to move on conveniently right after we acquired the company. I will say this: Bobby Kotick probably wants to leave, and I would, especially if they're offering him any kind of cash to leave. And he's already been dragged through the mud a lot lately, and rightfully so, in my opinion. So with any luck, he will take whatever golden parachute they're likely to offer him and leave. But my only problem with this whole like insider information about my whole problem with it is people have been talking. I've seen several people make videos talking about like, oh, Bobby Kotick is leaving, based on what Business Insider said, based on the Washington Post, who has insider sources saying he's going to leave. I agree it's likely, but it's just I don't like it when everybody talks so certain. It's not confirmed.
It's literally just this inside source said that this will happen.
Yeah, and my problem is I don't know why Microsoft would make it a point to specify him staying in their article. Maybe it's to really like hit the nail harder hit the nail harder that, oh, we're not conquering, we're not taking over. Like maybe they're trying to do that, just trying to be as quote unquote as positive as possible. But I don't know, I find it weird that they would specify that and then him actually be leaving.
Or maybe they're not asking him to leave. If he is, maybe they're not asking him to leave. It's just his choice.
Yeah. So that's just something I find weird. But Regardless, again, his leaving or staying, I don't think it's going to have much of an impact. Regardless, we're still going to have a lot of the same issues we have with all of these franchises. I'm trying, I will say this, I'm hoping that we do see positive changes, and certainly one thing that is, the main positive I do see happening is Microsoft are going to want to avoid bad press at all costs. So the cubicle crawl bullshit and the sexual harassment bullshit that have been happening at Blizzard, that shit's done.
Oh yeah.
That shit is done. Microsoft will not put up with that shit. I don't even know why Activision did, but regardless, Microsoft are not gonna want. They've been sitting back watching this shit show happen, which I do want. This is something I want to bring up. It's kind of it's a conspiracy theory, but I kind of find it funny and creepily possible, but I doubt it. But we'll get to that. But they've sat back and seen this shit show going on in the limelight with Blizzard. They've seen how bad it is and how bad it's been smacking Activision Blizzard in the face.
Yeah,
they're gonna want to avoid that. They wanted to avoid that beforehand, but it's just that's gonna get nipped in the bud. So that is the main positive I'm taking away from this, is we're gonna have that cut the fuck out, and professionalism is hopefully going to be reined in with this studio and company.
Hopefully.
Actually, are going to pull up some stocks here, Kiwi. I don't have the Blizzard's one pulled up, but I have Microsoft's and Sony's pulled up because that's like the main one here. But I have heard that Blizzard stock did shoot up, and so did Microsoft's. Both of their stocks did shoot up in response to this whole situation, and for good reason. Blizzard's has been tanking because of their reputation that they got hit with the lawsuit, as well as their games starting to have a little bit of a downturn overall. So it doesn't surprise me at all that with this acquisition, both sides have had a stock increase. And we're in response as well, Sony's as well as Sony's subsidiaries have also seen a sharp downturn because they're the main competitor to Microsoft. Though I don't even know if that, especially with how we know that Microsoft is going to do exclusives, I don't know how PlayStation's going to start. Like, they have plenty of franchises, don't get me wrong, that they can compete with, and plenty of quality ones. But now it might come down to a matter of numbers at this rate with how much Microsoft has acquired and are likely to turn into Xbox and PC exclusives.
Yeah.
So that's Sony. If I were Sony, I'd be worried. If they're not, like, that would surprise me in and of itself. Yokai, welcome. I think Microsoft was planning this from the start, so Activision was letting the way, so they could make the company more attractive without the consequences. Yeah, let me read that again just to be sure I'm not misunderstanding. I think my circle planning this from the start, so Activision was planning what from the start? The acquisition?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. Actually, that does... And I guess we can jump into that real quick before we talk about the stocks and the stocks going up and down. There is a bit of a conspiracy theory, and I think possibly this is entire... By the way, there's no proof of what I'm about to say. Keep that in mind. This is not news reporting, this next part. This is just rumor sharing. This is gossip. But there's a little bit of a theory kind of going around of just how conveniently this lawsuit was timed, and around the same time this acquisition. Because the thing is, these acquisitions are usually in debate for years. Like, when a company is trying to acquire another one, the negotiations don't go over for a weekend. This is like a whole year plus of negotiation between the current shareholders and the people looking to acquire them.
Yeah.
So that means, again, this is part of the conspiracy theory, that there is this belief that Microsoft might have influenced this whole thing coming out to the public eye, the lawsuit happening the way that it did. Do I believe it? I think it's a bit far-fetched. But at the same time, companies are getting more and more. How do you put it?
Desperate.
Desperate's not the right word. Shady? Underhanded?
Well, Kiwi said something interesting. Notice also the pattern with Microsoft. They acquired Bethesda after the disaster of 76, and now Blizzard with their PR disaster. The disaster of 76 was going on for a while before Microsoft bought it. Like, this is kind of fresh, though.
Yeah, this is fresh. And again, like these kinds of negotiations for an acquisition, they go over for over a year. And conveniently, more than likely, during those negotiations, they suddenly get hit with a reputation nuking lawsuit, and several articles ousting their inner corporate shadiness within Blizzard, with the cubicle crawls, the stealing breast milk, the list goes on of fucking horrendous shit that was happening inside that company. And I would say this. I don't put it past modern companies to go for the low blow and have an influence in such things to give themselves a better negotiating end on a table. Because at this point, and I think it's always been like this in companies, right? There's always been this level of almost nation-like wars between these companies. It's just not done with gunfire. It's done with cash. It's done with negotiation. Everything's done over the table. But that doesn't mean they don't go under the table for some low blows. So I will say, again, no proof to this. This is just conjecture. This is just a possibility that I think is unlikely. But at the same time, I'm not at all going to say that this. It's just I will agree with the conspiracy theory that it's a bit conveniently timed. I will say that.
Oh yeah.
But yeah. Anyway, that's kind of the conspiracy theory that Microsoft had some, in one way or another, some kind of influence. Now, it could be possible they just started the negotiations, and conveniently while the negotiations were going on, this happened. But I personally believe it's possible that they had some kind of, if they didn't have a direct influence, they had a direct knowledge that Blizzard was being investigated. Like, that's also possible. Like, I think I don't think it's as like shady as, you know, some Microsoft rep showed up to that I can't remember what they were called, but that California bureau with a check and went, you know, maybe you should check out the Blizzard studios, you know, within this next year. Maybe start an investigation. You might find something interesting. You know, just like does that like shady handoff with a check and then walks away. I don't know if it's that, but I do think it's quite possible they had some internal knowledge about the investigation from whatever source, knew about it beforehand, and took the chance of starting negotiations about an acquisition with the belief that would eventually there would come out the shady environment of Blizzard. I think that's more likely than them handing off a check, but I wouldn't put either past this situation. Anyway, that's the conspiracy theory aside. I did think it was. It's not so outlandish. It wasn't worth mentioning. Negotiations usually take a while, but when you have a disaster in this case, the people at Blizzard might just want to make their problems to Microsoft and wash their hands of it and move on. Maybe, but I do think that this. I don't. Even with something like this, negotiations still don't take a weekend. They still don't take a month. I do think that they've been in a quick acquisition negotiation like this, even with controversies factored in, I would still say they've probably been at the table talking for at least 8 months. Even that's considered a quick acquisition, is an 8-month negotiation timetable. I would argue. WoW sub on the Xbox Live Gold Pass soon. That does lead to another thing about. Well, that does kind of lead to one of the other things I wanted to talk about with this. The Xbox and PC exclusivity and the Game Pass part of it. I mean, no, without a doubt, certain games are 100% going to be on the Xbox Game Pass. If not all of them. The only one I think is questionable is World of Warcraft being on the Xbox Game Pass. But even then, that's solely because it's the subscription based. The current subscription service to World of Warcraft is around $15 a month, unless it went up since I quit World of Warcraft. Wow, it might have, but as far as I last knew, it was still $15 a month, plus buying the latest expansion for $60 fucking dollars, because expansions aren't expansions anymore; they're full games, I guess.
Hey, Asmogan. Give me like 10 minutes. I gotta step off for a minute. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. I got it. Where was I? Yeah. But with that, yeah. So with World of Warcraft kind of being the only one on rocky ground for me on whether it's going to be on Game Pass or not for that subscription service, or if it's going to remain its own independent subscription service. There's also the whole debate about Battle.net. Well, I think it's called the Blizzard launcher, but I call it Battle.net. There is that debate of, are they going to liquefy that and just put it all into their own Game Pass service, or are they going to maintain that as its own launcher? I think they're going to maintain that as its own launcher because I think it has its own value. I don't know about branding, but most people like Battle.net. They like just saying Battle.net is also kind of fun. So. I mean, there's a level of branding behind it, so I don't know. It seems like I would say from personal perspective, if I were in Microsoft's shoes, and I was acquiring something to start taking over the lease, if you will, of taking in the in-cash. For me, I would see value in making as few changes as possible. Obviously, making other things that I own more profitable and give them more value, like the Game Pass. But at the same time, you don't want to dismantle everything, and not only will that take time, but it'll also take away resources from the things that are already generating revenue. So I think it's more than likely that what they're going to do is leave Battle.net alone, as well as the Blizzard launcher. They're going to leave all of that on PC, and they're just going to find a way to interconnect that with the Game Pass. That's how I see that kind of integrating, but I'm not sure how it's all going to work out. Well, that's all that speculation for right now, but at the very least, I'm certain there will be some, like most of the Blizzard games we will see in one shape or form on the Game Pass. Considering Microsoft has ties with FBI and CIA, it's possible. I mean, I don't know anything about that specifically, and I don't want to get shot, so I'm not going into detail. Mezumi TV, welcome to the podcast. How are you? What's up, man? Big news in gaming world, yeah, pretty big news. This has been a massive nuke, and it came out of nowhere too. Well, it didn't come out of nowhere for those who were in the inn, but for us gamers, this was like, as far as I saw, there was no whispers about this, no leaks, nobody talking about this, no journo reported on this before it happened. It just Microsoft announced it, and everybody else was like, fuck. Especially with the amount of cash being thrown around. $68.7 billion, or if you round up, just around $70 billion. Just short of $70 billion. Yeah, they really kept this shut. Like, I certainly didn't see it coming. I mean, if anyone out there did see it coming, and I'm just not seeing like the video or article that discussed it before it happened, credit to them, because whatever sources they had, they're reliable. But yeah, so we went over kind of the Game Pass stuff. Went over the basics, the new games that they own, Bobby Kotick staying or not. There is another rumor going around that I also kind of want to report on. And this one's also a rumor. There's no whispers about this from any kind of, at least that I've seen, from the words of Phil Spencer or anybody behind Microsoft. So, but there's been a bit of a whisper going around about, and this is again amongst communities, not from any official source, that Microsoft may be acquiring all these companies that we've been seeing at the rate that they are, because they're planning on establishing their own Steam competitor. They're planning on setting up their own games platform service. Now, I know that they already have, they already have the Game Pass. They already have systems like that. I will say this, based on that, like, rumor, like them trying to also knock out Steam with a competitor, I don't know if that's true. I think, like, out of all of the whispers and talks about, like, what's going on with these acquisitions, I think that one, I will say this, I'm not the kind of person that's gonna nuke a theory and say, nah, that's not possible. I think it's possible. I think it's highly unlikely for now, at the very least. Especially, it's not gonna happen anytime soon if it is in the works. Because they own, with as much as they now own, I mean, World of Warcraft, StarCraft, Overwatch, Diablo, Call of Duty, Candy Crush, Crash Bandicoot, Minecraft, Doom, Wolfenstein, Fallout, Elder Scrolls, Halo, Rage, The Outer Worlds, Banjo-Kazooie, Sea of Thieves, Conquer, and more. Despite that, I still don't think they have enough to make a full platform on the level to compete with Steam. Steam still has so much more staying power, reputation. It's got its own contracts, not to mention it's the main source of indie games, so you have that in relation to the AAA market and the AA market. So there's just so many reasons why I don't think Xbox/Microsoft have enough power. They're getting closer. I mean, with all the franchises that are now under their banner, quite frankly, they're getting closer to having, at least if they do decide to go for it like Epic did, they have enough games under their repertoire to make it attractive. But enough to completely nuke Steam and Valve out of the game? I don't think so. So, I will say that one's also worth, like, mentioning as a kind of a whispering thing in the background. But I think for now, they're just going to try their best to relish as much income from the existing platforms and the existing retail market value of the Activision, Blizzard, and King market as best they can, with as minimal changes for the time being, especially since they want to make their money back before they make any other big moves. Like, I doubt we're gonna feel any ripple or effect from this. I mean, if we look at the Bethesda acquisition, we look at the games we got from the Bethesda acquisition, we didn't see too many overwhelming changes, and we still haven't, from that acquisition. If there have been any changes, they've all been kind of minor and quiet. So I think for the most part, at least for the near foreseeable future, we're not going to see any strong changes, especially on the forefront that matters to us gamers. We'll probably see Bobby Kotick leave again. I think that's likely. In what regard, what way they're going to put it, we'll see. Doomguy and Diablo. I mean, yeah, that could be cool.
That would be an interesting crossover. Or like they do their own version of like Smash Brothers.
I mean, yeah, that would be funny. Or yeah, and seeing Doomguy or Master Chief being put in Heroes of the Storm. And even though they've kind of left that in limbo.
No, so let's say they do like that arcade beat 'em up like Smash Bros. Like, you have how many characters from StarCraft that you have how many characters from Warcraft, you have Diablo, you have Overwatch, you have all these games that you just picked up.
Yeah, Crash Bandicoot, Banjo-Kazooie, and Conquer. They also own them.
Yeah, and I'm saying that's not even the ones outside of Activision Blizzard that Microsoft already had. So looking at, for Bethesda games, you have characters from the Fallout series, from Skyrim, from, all this stuff that you could actually pick to make your own Smash Brothers. That would be interesting.
It could be. I'm not gonna say they're working on that quite yet. I don't know. That could be interesting. I won't. I don't know. At the same time, like imagining how it would play.
Yeah.
Imagine if Microsoft just pulls in a Realm Reborn on WoW. I mean, I wouldn't put stock in that right now.
If they keep doing like the classic realms and do it for each expansion, and make the classics stay free if you have a WoW subscription, then I could see that bringing a lot of people back.
And they already did that for TBC. Although the problem is they're kind of fucking well before this acquisition, and I think they're still going to do it afterwards. To be honest, I hazard this for everybody to understand is don't and this isn't a pessimistic view. This is a realistic view. Don't expect massive changes on the monetization front of these games because they make money invariably. Microsoft is not acquiring these games to make them better. They're acquiring them to make them more profitable and to take over the profits that they're already accruing. That is why this acquisition is occurring. This acquisition is, and again, this is the realistic perspective. The pessimistic perspective is that we're all fucked. But I think the realistic perspective is, are we going to see positive changes in, for example, the corporate environment for avoiding cubicle crawls and stuff? I think so. I think most certainly, because we've never heard anything like that come out of Microsoft. Not to say it doesn't happen. I don't know. I don't work for Microsoft. And maybe it does. But I will say, if Microsoft has been paying any attention whatsoever to the shit show that's been happening, they're going to
kill it.
They're going to kill it. They're going to nuke it in the bud. And if they hear anything about it happening, they're going to snip everybody who's the problem child out instantly. And they will replace them with their own people. They will replace them with their own people.
They're probably going to snip the problem child and like their boss and their boss's boss.
Yeah, but as for your the problem is they, with what Blizzard was already doing with the old expansions and making them their own servers. Yeah. They made TBC ones, but they added the in-store they added store mounts.
So that I actually see as fine.
I don't.
Okay, this is just agree to disagree, because I don't really have a problem with it. I get why they're doing it. It's another form of cash for them, so I'm not really worried about it, because the mounts have the same effect as the riding skills, so all it really is a cosmetic thing at that point.
Well, no, I don't agree with that, because traditionally mounts in World of Warcraft were actually a sign of how much you've done in the game. Like Scarab Lord, for example. How much of a bitch it was to get that mount.
That's fair, but also at the same time,
if you had it, it showed you were fucking committed.
There are also some mounts.
If you had Invincible, that reflected a lot of hard work and grinding.
That didn't reflect hard work and grinding. That reflected fucking patience.
Exactly, but that comes with it. These are things like these mounts were not just a cosmetic thing. They were a bookmark of how much of the game you dedicated yourself to the game and how much of the content you've actually done.
Okay, so I agree with you.
Now they've been devalued because of this because of the store. They've now been devalued down to just a cosmetic.
I disagree.
I don't.
Getting Invincible is still a big thing.
No, I don't. No, correction. It is still a big thing, but mounts as a whole are not. Invincible specifically.
Okay, that's okay. I'll kind of agree with you there. Getting mounts as a whole, not such a big deal, because now you give them at 10 instead of 20. Except if you do play Classic, you still get them at like 20, and I think in TBC Classic. But now with like retail, you still get it at 10. So I agree with you. Mounts have been really just turned into cosmetics. It's just, I get that, but at the same time, that's kind of what they were to begin with. If you just wanted the really cool ones, you had to work for them.
Yeah,
that's how I've always looked at it. That's why I have less of a problem.
I have a major problem with it. So but I'm not happy they keep putting cool looking mounts behind the fucking store.
But at the same time, my original point is like, if they keep going the route they are and doing like WoW Classic Wrath of the Lich King, WoW Classic Kata, WoW Classic MOP, and do that and have servers for each one, that's a smart business decision, I think.
Commander Wolf, thank you for the super chat. Thank you for supporting us and supporting the show. Blizzard did have the rights to Metal Arms Glitch in the system. Great OG Xbox game. Would love a sequel or a Micro Smash game. Your guys' thoughts? Thoughts with it? Thoughts. The THOTS. Don't know if that was intentional. I I don't think I've played Metal Arms Glitch. That is one I don't think I've touched. What about you?
I haven't played it either. I have no opinion.
Well, let me, before I say for certain if I've touched that or
More
not,
gil for the cause.
allow me to look it up. Because I'm better with visuals than names. Metal Arms glitched in the system. Hold on. Alright.
So, old Saru says it's fun to have mounts for sale.
Oh! I remember that! Thank you, dude! I think you won 2 levels, both your financial generosity and reminding me this game I remember this game! Holy shit! I forgot what it was called! I've been trying to remember the name of this game since I was like fucking 12. Okay, so now I remember what this is. So Metal Arms glitch in the system was basically you play like a little robot AI mining droid type thing, and it's an old platformer fighter game stuff. It was actually really fun. I don't remember the game ins and outs. I played it when I was a little kid. But it was such a cool game. I for years I forgot its name. I was actually trying to remember it a few years back. Holy, like, thank you. I gotta bookmark this so I don't forget it again. Like for years I've been trying to remember the name of this fucking game.
Also, where are we at time-wise? We're at what, an hour? We're at 41 minutes.
41 minutes and 13 seconds.
41:13. Okay. I'm also kind of trying to keep track because people in my Discord are talking about to watch the stream after William said when they're out of school. I also want to put the timestamp in for when I give my news. That way, it just makes it easier for them to find if like they're busy or something.
Okay.
And then I forgot I could just ask you instead of looking at the clock.
Yeah.
Like a retard.
We're just about 42 minutes in now. Old Sour, welcome to the podcast. It's fine to have mounts for sale, but they should not look better than the ones you can earn in-game for free. I agree.
I also agree with that.
Like, intentionally making them better in every way than the ones you get for free. Again, I hate the fact that they... I just hate it.
There's actually one mount that you can get. I don't think you... No, I didn't get this mount from the store. I got it from doing the Digital Deluxe for Legion, I think. And what it does is you transform into like this flying Onyx lion thing, and someone else can ride on it. I don't like those.
I don't...
Does that make sense? Well, the reason I don't like it is because that, or like the 2-seaters that you can buy off the store, shit like that. I don't like those because it used to be the only one that you could get with a 2-seater was the Valentine's Day rocket thing.
Oh yeah.
And I think where it comes into, I don't really care about cosmetics. For me, it comes back into utility, and I think that really kind of devalues that.
I see mounts as a bookmarker of how much time you put into the game.
Coda is also listening in for my Discord. Hello, Kota.
Hello.
I have mentioned you the past couple of weeks, saying that we are glad that you finally got your kidney. And that hopefully you should start having a healthier life after you fully recover.
Hopefully. Take it easy. Don't go too hard on yourself. Let's see. I fundamentally don't agree with Kiwi. At all. It is not just luck.
Just luck. You can put no time into the game and just get really lucky. That is half true.
No, I wouldn't. I'd say at best 10% true.
Because I have seen people run ICC and get invincible on the first try, and I've seen people for years to get invincible.
Yeah, I will give you 10%. It is a portion luck. But just luck? Fuck no. I don't agree with that.
No, it's not just luck, but there is a great part of luck in it.
I don't agree with that.
The other one that I see everyone... What? Oh, Carneth Corn. Hi, Carneth Corn. The other one that I see a lot of people trying to get is the Headless Horseman's mount. Hey, Ginger Ninja.
Welcome, Ginger Ninja. Yeah, I don't agree. It's just luck. I will not agree that that's just luck. You can say to your red in the face, it's just luck. I'll just say you're wrong and leave it at that. Portion luck?
Baron
Yes.
Rivendell from Strat.
No.
Ugh. From Little Miss Cindy. I remember that one. Fuck that shit.
Alright, so the last thing...
Kodachi has arrived.
Welcome. Hey, there he is in the chat.
F my Discord is here.
Yay. Alright, so before we move on to anything else, so what was the last thing I wanted to cover? Oh yeah, stocks. Alright, so the last, at least what I have on my list, the last major thing I wanted to talk about in regards to the whole acquisition from Microsoft of Activision Blizzard is, first let's just look at Microsoft's stock. So around January 18th, when they announced the acquisition, their stocks did a dip up. This is the 1 month period, so they actually were pretty high up in their stocks about late December, where they were at $341.25 a share. Now they're at 309, so they were on a bit of a downturn. But it's more accurate to look at like a 6-month period to see if the stocks are really on a downturn. And by looks of it, they were riding high for a while, and then they were starting to kind of go back down to where they were in September. But they did a dip up, and we're probably going to see that continue to go up a little bit as more coverage about this acquisition starts to spread, and more shareholders look to buy shares. Oh, yeah. But in relation to that, in the same 1 month period, so on January 14th, before the announcement was made, Sony was doing $124.79 a share. On January 18th, it dropped to $115.84 a share, to now where it is now at $112.59 a share. It has dropped. It has taken a steep downturn. Now, is this going to be a continued sharp downturn? Again, it's all going to be in relation to the continued coverage of this acquisition. If the news kind of plateaus and we don't get anything new for a little while, I think we'll see the stocks start to plateau wherever they're at. Sony with a lower stock value and Microsoft with a higher stock value. But yeah, there has been a sharp, in response to this, and understandably so. Understandably so. Just it's going to be a fact that Microsoft are going to be making exclusives with a lot of these decisions, and making a Call of Duty exclusive with how hardcore a fan base Call of Duty still has. Which, don't ask me why. I am not a COD guy, but I'm not going to sit here and pretend it has no value just because I don't like it. COD...
Other people like it.
Lots of people, lots of kids really like COD. So, unfortunately, it sells incredibly well, despite it being a copy and paste, kind of like FIFA and Madden, every fucking year. It just copy paste, in my opinion, with slight differences to pretend that they're selling you something different. But my own whinging aside, if you get an exclusive Call of Duty on an Xbox and deny its access to PlayStation, that alone will make you so much money and will hurt PlayStation. It'll make them money while at the same time smashing their competition hard. Now, luckily for Sony, Sony has a lot of quality studios still working with them, still working for their platform, like Insomniac Games, Spider-Man PlayStation 4, the next Spider-Man game they're going to come out with, or the next Insomniac game in general. Usually they make pretty high quality games. So, and FromSoft working with Sony. Sony's not dead in the water. Like, that's one thing I will say for most folks who are fans of Sony.
It might come down to, because FromSoft does the Souls games, right?
Yes.
It might come down to like more casual players for Xbox and like the more hardcore players on PlayStation. That'll probably be where you see a rift.
Let's see.
Taylor just walked out.
Don't COD players are a bunch of casuals. Yeah, they are. What the fuck is this COD you speak of? Never heard of such a thing. Call of Duty? Not gonna happen. What? The exclusives? I think you have to be delusional to think that they're not gonna do exclusives.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but if you think they're not gonna do exclusives, you're delusional. That's not even. I'm not even gonna humor that with saying that's anything short of delusional. You don't make an acquisition like this and just leave it, let it lie. Now, if what you're saying is not going to happen, as in you don't think that that's going to help or hurt Sony, let alone Microsoft, I'm open to discussion about that. But to say that they're not going to do an exclusive, I'm sorry, you're high. You're high on something.
So, is it cool if I do my announcement?
Yeah, you want to throw it
in? Because I think we're kind of winding down from where we are with the Microsoft buying Activision Blizzard, and also half my Discord is here now.
Okay. Well, let me shoot you an
so Taylor, tell them. Don't look at me that way. He's looking at me like I'm an asshole. Okay, so we found out yesterday that there is a baby Ludus on the way.
I called it.
You did call it.
You lying bastard.
I didn't lie. I just didn't admit the truth.
Called it. So we're just gonna own that one and leave it at that.
But yeah, that was my special news. Is we are actually Taylor's pregnant with our second child. Lying by omission, yes. It sounds just so much cleaner though when I say I just didn't tell you. Thank you guys. Actually, that's kind of why I had to step out, because someone was actually treating Taylor like a dick a minute ago, and that's kind of why I had to step out.
Yeah. Well, fuck them. But congratulations.
And that too. And Taylor can't sleep right now because she has restless leg syndrome, and most of her medications can't be used by pregnant women. Yeah.
Well, I hope you guys manage with that, and again, congratulations. With all the weird news in the world, it's good to get some goods. It's good to get some good news.
Yeah. But I mean, like, it's one of those things where it's kind of like, it was kind of funny because yesterday, what was it we did yesterday? Beforehand, we went to the store.
Why, Kiwi? Why are you telling me to watch the Asmogan video? I'm not sure why his opinion would be greater than my own. And I don't put any stock in someone's sub count giving them a better opinion or worse opinion.
He's saying exclusives is anti-business.
Yeah, and yeah, that stopped Sony from doing it, right? Sony never did exclusives.
Sony is like the king of exclusives.
Again, it's just, I'm sorry, that's just, in my opinion, it's a dumb take to think that they're not going to do exclusives, and it's not, I wouldn't even call it, I'd say it is business at this point, not anti-business. It's how they do things.
Yeah.
So, I do think that they're going to do exclusives, and I think if you're allowed to have the opinion, I just think I think you're just wrong. Fundamentally, I think you're fucking wrong if you think they're not going to try. I will accept that maybe some won't be exclusives, maybe, but to say they won't do any, bullshit. They already do it. They already do it with the Halo franchise.
Oh yeah.
So, no, they're doing exclusives.
I can't wait for them to start
now,
doing it.
I will say this. I prefer Microsoft's exclusives because they're PC and Xbox exclusives. The only man they cut out of that pie is Sony. That's the only one getting cut out of the pie. So Microsoft's exclusives at least let you, if you're a PC gamer, you're set. If you're a Microsoft, and if you play on Xbox, you're set.
Yeah. Xandrex kind of just said what you said, although not sure how much they will do exclusive to Xbox, but I bet they will limit it to Xbox and PC. Yes, because that's what they've been doing for a while.
That's what they've been doing for a long while. That's why again, if you have the take that they're not going to do exclusives, I'm sorry, but you're not living in reality. And you're not living in reality, and you're not paying attention to any of this. If that's your take, like that's,
so
I'm leaving it at that. But that's fucking it.
Coda said, I mean, Bethesda games are Xbox exclusives now. I don't think that's entirely true. 'Cause I think Skyrim you can still play on PlayStation. I don't know if they did that for the Anniversary Edition.
Oh, I thought you were still going.
Oh, no. I was just commenting on that, saying that I don't think, new releases will be Xbox exclusive. Yep, probably. Xbox and PC.
Yeah. Again, you're not living in reality if you don't think they're gonna go the route of exclusives.
I saw the idea that they're gonna try and make, like, something similar to Steam. Like, you know, something kind of like, I don't know.
I do briefly.
A Microsoft store.
Commander Wolf, thank you for the super chat, man. Thank you. Friendship Grenade is best grenade by far. If you could do a video on it with you or Arch, I think it would show how far gaming has fallen since glory days of gaming. Do you mean of Metal Arms? I played it on an old PlayStation. I don't know if there's a way to play it. I don't know, did it get ported to PC at some point? I don't know, let me check Steam real quick. If it is, I'm getting it as soon as I have the money.
More gil for the cause.
$1.99, is it? Oh no, it's a VR game. Damn it. I don't suppose it'll show up in a regular search. Nope. Damn it. Maybe I can find we'll see. Halo started on PC. I don't believe
Kiwi proved that it in fact did not.
Yeah, I don't think that's true. Halo's, it was programmed on PC, but all games are, so that's not a point. But it was definitely on Xbox. Now there was the old Death Gulch, or I believe that's what it was called. There was that old demo you could play on the PC.
Blood Gulch.
Yeah, Blood Gulch. Like you could play that on the PC. The actual full game, well, first of all, even that demo I just mentioned, I wasn't on, originally on PC. I don't remember. I'm pretty sure, but it did end up on PC. The full game did not end up on PC for a little while, if I recall. I'm trying to remember the order of events, but I know that it didn't start on PC.
Kiwi said it was released November 15th, 2001 on Xbox and was ported to Microsoft Windows and Mac OS in 2003.
Yeah. It is kind of abandonware at this point, so I might be able to find it somewhere. I mean, I might be able to find it converted to a PC playable game. Maybe. I mean, I would love to play it again. It was a great game when I was a kid, as I recall. As for me playing it with Arch and I don't chat and hang all that much, and he's really, it's not because there's any bad blood or anything, he's just really busy, and factually speaking, I am a smaller creator. I mean, and you know, being a, I kind of want to start a discussion about that, but being a smaller creator, you're kind of devalued a little bit. I'm not saying this in reference to Arch, but just kind of, it's I've kind of noticed it here and there.
Kind of the general rule. Yeah,
it's the general rule is you don't add value to a video if you're a smaller creator. and also people don't respect you as much. Especially if you're the wombo combo of being younger. I'm in my 20s, so just for that reason, people devalue my opinion and my perspective, and tell me to go watch, for example, an Asmogan Gold video because his opinion's better than mine. But like that aside, it just comes with the territory of being a smaller creator. Larger creators like Arch, if he wanted to do a video with me, I'd be all down for it. But I don't feel comfortable going to him and being like, hey, can we do this thing together? It would be cool, but it wouldn't do, for a video or a stream, it wouldn't do him any good, unfortunately. Unfortunately, I don't think it would help him in any way.
Yeah. And
that's something I would want to happen. Like, I don't want something to happen between the two of us, like doing a stream or doing a video together just to help me. I know those times we invited him onto GT to talk about some Warhammer stuff, but that was more as a guest appearance, and I was elated when he was willing to do that. But as like a full stream of us just playing an older game or something like that, where it's more casual,
that would be a bit of a stretch.
Yeah, I think his time is worth more than that for like. Yeah. And I know, like, the first example that some other folks who, like the Bickering Bunch, their channel's really small and they still do stuff. The difference is, at least seemingly to me, like from our relationship with them and everything, the difference there is with Kibbs and Arches. They're much closer friends. They talk a lot more than we talk to them, for example. So I don't know. Maybe this is all just like in my own head and stuff. But generally speaking.
Oh no, you're probably right, because Kibbs and Arch are closer friends. Yeah. It's kind of like me and you. It's kind of like I'm the small channel here, but at the same time, we're still really close friends, so we do have that dialogue.
Yeah, that's the way to put it. Again, that's probably the best way to put it. But as just channel to channel, like on a business kind of perspective, I just don't think it would be a net positive for Arch and I to do stuff together. But if he ever comes to me and wants to do stuff, I'll be all for it. But it's another thing altogether if I go to him and try and post something, because it might come off as me trying to use his clout to ride off of, and I've tried to avoid that. I like Arch. I like his content. He's a great guy. The conversations we've had have been awesome off stream, but again, I just don't. If we would do something together, I would want him to want it to happen first, and if it comes from me, I just fear it comes off as me clout chasing, which I try to avoid. That's why my channel isn't all that big. I'm not really hardcore in the clout chasing thing. Anyway, so we've more or less gone over the whole Microsoft thing. Didn't you have an article you wanted to go over about it, or did we take that off the docket?
We just didn't really talk about it that much. It was the article about the one that the guy wrote about how it's a disaster for gaming.
Yes, right. That guy's dramatizing video. Sorry, dramatizing article.
Yeah, and I mean, like, okay. So here's my stance.
Yeah, she has to hop out for lunch.
Yeah, Miss Cindy. So I kind of get his argument that it almost creates a monopoly, or at least close to, which is not factually correct, but the three big ones are Microsoft with Xbox, Sony with PlayStation, and Nintendo with whatever the fuck they're doing, right? So I get what he's saying, where it creates almost a monopoly with Xbox buying up Activision Blizzard. And that it kind of limits what Sony can do.
Welcome, Dragonis. Sorry, I just want to... Didn't mean to interrupt you.
But it limits what Sony can do, because now they have stuff that's under Microsoft. Now, Microsoft probably won't let them do it, because for the longest time, Microsoft's like, hey, let's make this cross-platform, and Sony's response was, go fuck yourself. So now this is kind of turning that table on Sony. It's like, now Sony's like, hey, can you make that cross-platform? Go fuck yourself. So
Yeah, hold on.
It's one of those things.
Just pulled up the article here. Yeah. So this is the article he's talking about for reference.
That's as much as I was really going to touch on it.
I mean, yeah, but it's it's still good to pull up the article just in case anybody wants to read it as well.
I mean, like, he has the valid point of it could cause that, but he just takes it from like what should be like a 5 or a 6 all the way up to like 20.
Yeah, I would say when it comes to like the moral debate, or quote unquote the moral debate about these kinds of acquisitions, legally they're not doing anything wrong, and I would argue morally they're doing nothing wrong. Like when it comes to business acquisitions, this is par for the course. Like this is how you play. Like, to put it in a silly way, the business world is like the Game of Thrones. Like, you guys remember that quote from season 1 of Game of Thrones where it's a silly quote, but for us nerds it works best. Where Cersei, is that her? I can't remember her name now. It's been forever.
Yeah, Cersei.
Yeah. She said to Eddard Stark, you either play the game to win or you die. If you're gonna get in, and that's kind of how business works. You play to win, or your business is gonna die out. So you got to make aggressive business moves. Something like this, acquiring Blizzard, acquiring Bethesda, making exclusives, making it so your platform, your services, everything that you provide that you directly profit from has infinitely more value, not only from a share and stocks perspective, but also just from a general gamer's perspective. What the Game Pass is looking at more and more every day worth it to people. These are all smart business moves. They're aggressive and they're harsh and they work, and that's and that's why they're being done. Like, this is I find it weird when people take situations like this and they try to anthropomorphize it in a way. Like, they try and turn it into basically like a human thing. Like, this corporation, and I know it sounds weird, but in reality, as depressing as it sounds, you kind of have to remove a level of humanity to be in business. It's all logistics. It's all numbers. That's all this stuff is at the end of the day. And as long as they're not breaking the law, I don't see a moral problem with it. Like, an acquisition like this, there's no I skimmed through this guy's article, and he kind of phrased it like, what's a good portion I could take out? So, all right, for example, buying Bethesda, or more accurately ZeniMax Media, it felt like it was, and off the bat, this is my problem with this article, felt like. Okay? Felt like, why does that matter in regards to a business acquisition? It's business. Take the fees and put them over in the trash. But felt like it was crossing a line. What line? What law did they break? Oh, they didn't? Then they didn't cross a line. They just went through business. They made an acquisition that was perfectly legal. Now, if you want to talk about perhaps maybe the conspiracy theory that they might have had involvement with the ousting of the internal environment of Blizzard, maybe we could talk about that for a more like a crossing the line thing, if it turns out to be true, which I don't think we'll ever have proof for. But just buying Bethesda and it quote unquote crossing a line, that's just factually incorrect. And that's more or less how this guy's whole article kind of goes. It's about it. This feels like it's crossing a line. This is gonna hurt Sony, and it's like, why should we care? There's this thing where he's like, this will hurt Sony. Let me ask you this: if something hurts or helps a company, unless I work there or have shares in it and a vested interest in the profits it espouses, why do I care? Like, I don't care about Activision. I don't care about EA. I don't care about any of these corporations. I care about the people who work there, and I hope that they get to maintain their jobs. But the corporate body? I don't care. I don't care about Bethesda. I don't care about ZeniMax. I don't care about Square Enix. I don't care about any of these corporate bodies. I care about the people who work there. And even then, not always, because sometimes they're assholes. But
for me, it's more of, I hope they at least... it's a little simpler for me. I have Microsoft buying out Activision Blizzard. I don't think there'll be massive changes when it comes to the games, if any. But I hope that if they do changes, it's more for like the player base and less just to make money.
Yeah, like, again, it's just this mentality of trying to anthropomorphize these companies, trying to make them like people. Like, oh, Microsoft is bullying poor Sony. They're not people. They're corporate bodies that are trying to nickel dime. They're both trying to nickel and dime everybody. Take the fifis the fuck out of it. It's corporate business. Like, I'm sorry, I don't want to bash on this guy's article too much, but honestly, if you're gonna write an article where this feels like, or this, just don't go tweet it, put it on Twitter. Go ahead, but this shouldn't be an article.
Just don't.
I'm just sorry, just don't. Like, this is especially like on the platform called Digital Trends, making an article like this, and you talk about how your feelings about it. I'm sorry, just eject it now.
I will, if it's cool with you, since we've beaten this horse till it's fucking blue and past that.
Yeah.
I have a good segue since we're talking about get the fifis out of it.
Okay.
The pros and cons of comparing and contrasting different universes. Take the fifis out of it, really, is my. So this was actually a conversation that I had because I had an idea for a video and I posted it to Asmogan and a few of the guys on the Discord, where I was talking about comparing what would happen if a boarding party of Stardies landed on, say, the USS Enterprise. We came to the conclusion together that if the boarding party made it, whoever was on the Enterprise would be screwed. If the boarding party made it. So,
yeah.
And it's something that I think...
This is a lengthy conversation we had.
Oh, yeah. So, but that's just me trying to summarize it so I can keep going with the point. But no, so I really think there are pros and cons of comparing different universes, in this specific case, sci-fi universe. The main one that I've done in the past is StarCraft and 40K. There are pros and cons to this. Yeah, they're both futuristic, but they do their technology in two very different ways. So the pro and con here is it's good to compare them, because you could sit there and like, okay, so even though they're different, this is what makes this game good, this is what makes this game good. Like, for instance, you have the Marines from StarCraft and the Astartes from 40K. They both look really cool, because they're ripped off of each other. But they both look really cool, and, you know, they're kind of like the quote-unquote good guys of the universe, because that's where we're fucking going right now. But the con to it is kind of like, okay, yeah, you can compare them, but where they don't really use the same metric for their universes, it's hard to say, like, yeah, a Marine would kill an Astartes. Absolutely fucking not. But just as an example, like, well, they have this gun that fires a depleted uranium bullet. Well, okay. But it's still close to a baseline human, where an Astartes is not. So...
I just realized that there's apparently a war going on in our chat.
Yeah, between Kiwi and Carneth Corn.
Yeah, it's kind of funny to read.
Over Half-Life.
No, they're talking about Halo, aren't they?
No, they were talking about Half-Life.
I missed something?
I
thought they were talking about Halo and Halo Wars.
They were talking about Half-Life.
Okay, point to publisher. So Half-Life 3 Alex.
Yeah.
I'm trying to catch up on their war right now.
But no, so
No, go ahead. Sorry.
But no, so it's kind of like the pros and cons of it are, you know, or even pulling Star Trek into this. Their futuristic tech is also much different than anything like 40K or hell, even StarCraft has.
There's similarities we can cross between the universes, but unfortunately, a lot, like, once you, like, for example, if you do videos about, like, comparing, like, StarCraft to Star Trek, StarCraft to Warhammer 40K, Warhammer 40K to Dune. Like the problem with these comparisons is you have to fill in a lot of the blanks yourself, and because of that, a lot of it comes down to personal perspective and opinion. For example, comparing the power of phasers to large las cannons on a given I don't know, battle barge, or like comparing the weapons of like those ships. There are samples, and the problem is not only is there inconsistency with one in particular, like 40K has a lot of inconsistency with how a lot of things are portrayed, whereas Star Trek is fairly consistent. We see, not to say there's no inconsistency with Star Trek, there have been some here and there, but for the most part, Star Trek is fairly consistent in terms of how it portrays the strength of things. And the very first phase cannon we saw in Star Trek could, at low settings, could leave a large crater on a moon, and on high settings could leave a massive trench left inside the moon. Like, that was the very first iteration of the phase, like the large phasers we see on later iterations of the ship. Because if you guys are looking for an example of that, that was in the prequel series, Star Trek Enterprise, which kind of showed how a lot of stuff formulated for what would eventually become Starfleet. It was actually a good show. I'm really disappointed that got canceled, especially with what we have now, and going like, why is this shit, the current shit show we got right now still going, but that show got canceled. Regardless, but if you compare that to the 40K weaponry, not only does there's a lot of stuff you kind of fill in the blanks, right? Like, we have specific examples like that with the phase cannon, and then we have multiple different examples of the power of the ships on a battle barge, for example, of how powerful that is. Sometimes it's portrayed as you can glass a planet with just a single bombardment with a single ship. Sometimes it requires a fleet of ships. So it's really hard to do cross-universe comparisons because we're not given to an anal degree the exact power of every weapon in both universes, and then that way we can do cross-examinations properly. The cross-examinations, especially when we're talking about something fictional, like both of these weapon sets, we have to fill in a lot of blanks. Now, there's lots of lore and in-universe explanations for how powerful, what scale, what timeline, this kind of thing, in both universes, but roughly speaking, there's still elements you have to kind of mix and mash, and blanks you still got to fill in, which are based on your biases to debate it. So, at the end of the day, the person who debates that, for example, in StarCraft, the Marine's rifle is more powerful than a bolt gun, though I would say, based on my biases, that that's wrong, and bolt gun is more powerful. Their argument isn't dead in the water, because, again, we have some explanation to like how they work, and like what was the crazy like stats on the Marine's rifle in StarCraft? What's before? It had some really like nutty shit in it.
I know it fires like a fucking depleted uranium shell, which let's not even get into why that would be fucking weird for a handheld rifle. And it holds something like 100 rounds or some stupid... No, 500 rounds in a magazine of depleted uranium shells. No, the fuck it doesn't. You know why I know this? Because those things are heavy. You wouldn't be able to move.
Well, it was because of the power armor. And then this comes to... Then comes in the other part of the debate, like, is this even fucking possible? So, like, do you trust the established lore, or do you trust, like, what you actually read and see in game, or read in the books and stuff like... To sum up what I'm trying to say, it's almost impossible. It's fun to do, but in the end, if you ever want to know who wins what, just ask the person doing the analysis which universe they like more, and that's who's gonna win most of the time in the debate between universes.
And then there's me, because I really do it from an impartial standpoint. And you know that.
I mean, yeah, like you're fairly impartial. All right, Kiwi, not Karn, knock it off. You guys are getting into testy territory now. Just stop engaging with one another. I feel like a parent right now.
I was about ready to say something, but I was like, no. Daddy needs to smack them.
Good. Anyway, let's open up for Q&A.
Okay.
Unless you want to cover something before that.
Not really, because all the other thing I really had was like the idea of what was better between legendary editions and remakes versus originals, but we could do that at a different time.
Yeah, okay. Real quick, let me generate a link for the chat.
Oh, he didn't see my chat. Oh well. Well, Pith.
There we go. Okay. So, alright, so we're opening up to a Q&A. We allow that for the chat, and I'm also going to provide a link to the Discord where you guys can jump into call line VC, and I will pull you in for a discussion with me and Ludus.
Let me see if I can send an invite to your Discord. Invite people. And I'm going to put it in my Discord as well.
There you go. Yeah, so if you guys want to hop into the Discord, jump into call line, and we allow you guys to hop in and ask us questions over the air. Yeah. Yeah, can you keep your eye on the call line and let me know if someone hops in?
Yeah, sorry.
Alright. Just let me know. What kind of questions? What color socks are you wearing? I'm wearing black socks. Well, dark gray. Yeah,
That's got to be one of the most random questions we've ever got.
No. The most random one we ever got was from Nathan.
I'm trying to remember, but I don't.
He asked if you were wearing a thong.
I'm pretty sure there was lead up to it, so I wouldn't really call that random.
I recall there was no lead up. It was just during the Q&A. We were being asked a bunch of questions, and he just asked out of the blue if you were wearing a thong. Pretty sure. I'd have to go back. It was forever ago, but I remember Nathan being responsible for our most random comments.
Yeah, that's fair.
Are they lace? No. What is the airspeed velocity of an unladen swallow?
I was trying to get someone to jump in.
42.
They did not see my message. Oh well.
I know that's a reference to something, and my brain is like not calculating it. And
I'm glad your brain is not calculating it.
Yeah. While we one kind of question, like one kind of topic we touched on it a little bit earlier, but kind of want to talk about it a little bit more. The whole like content creator size thing, and like I know because I kind of feel like it's a discussion, like it's actual topic worth discussion, right? Part of it is I think it's pretty flat, like when for example, when we look at like me doing a crossover, playing Metal Arms, glitching the system with Arch, for example, with how that was opposed, and I explained how I wouldn't do that because I wouldn't see a benefit for Arch to do it with me, and as I'm not close friends with him like Kibbs is, it wouldn't be like two friends hanging out and asking to do a hangout sesh. It would be more from a creator perspective, and I wouldn't see much benefit in it for him because I'm a smaller creator. I wouldn't be bringing much to the table. It would be all benefit to me, really. And I don't want to... it would be clout chasing in practice, whether my intent was that or not. And B, I don't want to... I want to get wrapped up in that. I don't want to... Not only do I not want to be accused of it, but I don't actually want to do it in practice either. So I'd rather us be closer in size if we're going to do collabs like that. With the occasional exception here and there, of course, like when there's a very specific topic I want to discuss, and it's in the proper venue, like the GT podcast, for example, when we did stuff with him before, like that wasn't something like that for me. That was a more appropriate venue for like a collab like that than something, let's say, just the two of us playing. All right, Kiwi's in call. All right, let me pull him in.
You still haven't given me the authority to pull people.
I tried to, like I did. I tried to update your role. Anyway, hi Kiwi, welcome to the call line. You can ask up to 2 questions, which really there's not much limit on them. So go ahead, shoot.
Oh, sure. Hello, everyone. I was just curious. This has nothing to do with the topic of today's podcast, but
Okay.
more to your future sort of co-op streams. Because I noticed you were doing stuff with like Payday 2 and stuff, and I was just wondering if you had any other plans on what other kind of games you're planning on co-oping with your community and stuff.
Well, the beauty of the co-op streams is that they're not really limited to a specific game. It really just comes down to, you know, I'm gonna, the day of, I'm gonna check in to see who's available for the time. And if no one is, you know, I'll start the stream soloing a game or something, and then, you know, let people, as the hours kind of go by, let people in the community kind of join in. We play games together, and the beauty of them is there's really no limit. Like if someone wants to suggest a game I've never played before, and assuming I can afford it and download it real quick the day of, I'll do that. Like if you want to play Vermintide 2, we'll play Vermintide 2. When Darktide comes out, if people want to play Darktide, we'll play Darktide. Want to play Total War battles, or want to do StarCraft 2 matches, or I really don't have any rules with it. It just comes down to what people want to play. And I'm pretty much open to any co-op game, as no matter how wacky. Like I'll even like Fall Guys, Among Us. I'll play games like that. It all comes down to.
If you ever
what
want me to
everyone
teach
wants to
you
do.
how to suffer through Tarkov, just let me know.
And I don't have the money to buy. I don't know how much
The
does Tarkov
smallest
cost?
edition of Tarkov is I think $30. I can check on Battlestate's website real quick.
Because until I hear back from my my job,
The only thing that
I'm pretty short
differs
on
with
cash.
the packages you get from Tarkov is you start out each wipe with certain things that can be considered technically better. It's not as pay to win as you think, though.
I wasn't really worried about the pay to win aspect. It's just I just don't have the money to like buy the game. Like the game, it's I'm poor. I pull out my pockets right now. There will be a cartoonish moth that'll flow out.
I'm trying to convince him also when he gets the money to get State of Decay 2. Because that
I wouldn't. I refunded that game pretty quickly.
That is a fun game.
It's boring.
It's a fun game.
It's fun with friends, and
The two of you hold that thought. Let me go get my ref outfit and the bell so I can ding it.
Hold on, I'm looking at the purchase things for Escape from Tarkov.
Don't worry, Jenny. I actually, if you're up for it today, we can play for a couple hours of some Dungeon Defenders. I do need to get some editing done on that damn video I'm working on. It takes forever to do.
Don't feel bad. I still got to record 7 videos.
Yeah, you don't even edit though.
Okay,
I do some.
You put the intro in.
For the standard edition of Tarkov, it's a little bit less than a AAA game. At the moment, it's $45 US.
Yeah, I don't. Like I said, like $10 is what I consider a big purchase right now.
Oh yeah.
So, like
Also,
I said, pull out my pockets.
If you agree to
moths.
the suffering, I may just end up buying it for you. But
And I'd rather you not spend your money like
to it.
that. Like I'd rather you not like buy me stuff like that.
I'm always looking for people to join in the suffering. Your suffering would be my payment.
Thanks.
Would be your reimbursement. I mean.
Maybe. I'll leave it at a maybe for now. Outside that, did you have any other questions for us?
Let me see. I guess to make my last question, I suppose a podcast relevant question. If optimistically speaking, Microsoft tends to be more hands-on with their acquisition of Blizzard, what are your hopes for the changes they might do, whether it be completely just overhauling games, retconning Shadowlands, anything like that.
All right. Is this presuming and more optimistic, or
A more hands-on approach by Microsoft instead of letting Blizzard just kind of do its own thing after, getting obviously rid of all the troublemakers in the office.
if they have a hands-on approach? I have two ways of looking at this. There's a more optimistic perspective, which is, clearing up the studio of the troublemakers, and also presuming with we at this point we've learned along with those cubicle crawls and all that that people would just sit around and not do proper development for their games. So with a hands-on approach, they will not only get rid of the troublemakers, but also keep people working. They'll get proper QA testing and proper PTRs set up. Not that, to be fair, it's not like for World of Warcraft in particular, haven't been in relation to the PTR thing. There hasn't been really a problem. But if we're talking more something like releasing updates or new characters for Overwatch, or doing new releases like possibly a Reforged in the future, which I honestly hope doesn't happen. But if they get it in their head to do that again, or something akin to that,
hopefully they do it right this time.
That they do it right, and I hopefully with Microsoft helping them with budget as well, they also won't outsource the work to anybody like they did. Like, to be fair, in the case of Warcraft Reforged, the best part of Reforged, which was hit or miss for me, was the graphical update, and that was outsourced. But that looked pretty bad to me. But
the good thing about
it was the best part.
Microsoft owning so many things is they can
exactly
outsource
like
it
that's
to
that's the thing. The outsourcing
their own
would
companies though, like Bethesda ones who have done RTS games before.
Exactly, but outsourcing outsourcing in the sense of outside of Blizzard, but
insourcing rather.
within the within the flag of Microsoft, which would be more reliable because that means Microsoft controls both bodies, would be able to make them communicate more, and also keep them working in tandem properly, giving us a better result in the end. So, with the most optimistic view, we'll see improvement in the actual development process of new games or remakes or updates, graphical or otherwise. And for every new release we get, we'll see even more refinement. For a less optimistic view, I fear that, especially with how much Microsoft has spent on this venture, that they will push for not necessarily harsher monetization, but more overbearing monetization. A lot more skins, a lot more things getting cordoned off behind paywalls. That is a more hazardous view of their hands-on approach. Is that to make their money back? Microsoft is generally business smart, so I doubt that they do that in the most pessimistic view. But
I feel like they're gonna make their money back on this entire transaction, though.
Yeah, they definitely are.
Just with the sales of Overwatch 2 and
I don't think that's
Diablo 4.
Yeah, I don't think that's in debate. That they're gonna make their money back at least eventually.
Really cheap for how big.
Exactly. Like
that.
That's the thing. On the video I initially did, one of the first comments I got on the video, just covering the initial role, was a lot of people. Well, I say a lot. One person in particular in my comment section, but a lot of people in other comment sections covering this same topic. A lot of people were speaking to like, "Oh, I think that's a bit much, especially with the reputation." I had to point out to several people that it sounds big to a layman, but if you actually think about it,
consider how big Microsoft is. That's not even big dick money. That's like
this is just a game. That's not even the most amount of money they have. Like that's a drop in the bucket of their overall revenue.
They spend more on arcade games for the Xbox marketplace than that.
And also, if you look at Activision and the revenue that they pump out, the revenue that they pump out is easily like in the I don't work in Blizzard, so I'm not a stock shareholder, so I don't know the exact number. But I think it's safe to assume that the quarterly revenue alone for Activision Blizzard is bordering on billions at the yearly revenue, and definitely in the millions for quarterly revenues. So they may not make their money back immediately, but to be honest, no business venture like that is done with the expectation of making their money back tomorrow. But no matter what, I believe 100% Microsoft is going to get their money back.
Well,
and
here's something actually really interesting for you. Microsoft can make one decision that would bring so many people back to Activision Blizzard that it actually wouldn't be fun. Revamp Warcraft 3 Reforged, where it's Reforged and the original.
So Reforge?
No. If they take it, leave it as Reforged, but it has the original as well. Kind of like
if you mean
So
like
you're
they
just making
reinstate
people buy the old game again?
yeah.
Well, actually, I would say for PR's sake, I would say just re-release the old game as its own code, separate system-wise, with its own separate server for a BattleNet from Reforged. Because that, I do agree that would be a great PR move, and would certainly
Make it free like classic WoW.
Yeah, kind of like just include it in a package. Like if you buy Reforge, you get the original as a separate game with its own separate server for BattleNet and custom games. Basically reinstating the original while maintaining Reforged and updating it. Like that, I agree in the sense that would certainly warm people up. To this, if that was one of their first moves under this acquisition, that would be big. That would be a very big thing. Will they do it? I don't think so.
I doubt it. But that would be probably the smartest.
But I would say that's a very in an optimistic sense. That is certainly a good move PR-wise, in my opinion, for sure.
The acquisition, even existing in the first place, is a huge PR move because people like me who weren't even thinking, no matter how much they wanted it, of buying Diablo 4, just because they didn't want to give Blizzard any more money, are now reconsidering buying it after they said, no, I'm not going to give Blizzard a single dime.
But Badass Customs, first of all, welcome to the stream. But he does bring, you do bring up a good point, bring WoW to consoles. I actually agree with that.
I don't.
They'd have to really simplify.
Yes, they would.
The move.
No, they would. No, you could do it with WoW as it currently is in retail. You could do it then. You cannot do it with Classic.
We'll discuss that at length.
Depends.
But we'll discuss that another time. But
it's not like Final Fantasy, because Final Fantasy was
correct. That was what I was about to say.
It was made to be that way.
That is the major difference.
And making it console friendly is hard.
Yeah, that is the major difference. When you design something from the ground up to have a functionality, inherently it will, even if like at first it's a little bit buggy, it will work with that in mind. And
but Black Desert was remade completely customs.
Yeah, it was. And in the case of WoW, though, the WoW was designed, programmed, and everything with PC in mind, and not at all with console. So to basically Frankenstein it to work on console would be extremely difficult. Is it possible? And if they could do it right, would it be good? I would say yes. So I agree with it being done if they can do it right, and I would say it would take some time to, again, reconfigure it to work with console. It would be its own development process, pretty much, almost, like just making that version of it. But I do think it's possible, for one, and for two, I do think it would be good if done well. My fear is if they do that, though, if they do it and they try and do it quickly, like my fear would that would cause the quality to suffer, and if they try and do it, that might actually hurt. Not only would that hurt Microsoft in terms of their reputation of having now acquired this, because now people would lose trust in them as like the overhead controlling this, but it would also, I think it would also, because the thing is, PC gamers don't like it when their games are forcibly mutated for other platforms, because there's always the fear that because of that there'll be less focus on the PC's refinement and optimization. So if it's not done well, that'll cause a little bit of, not just a little bit, but a major rift in the communities. If it's done right, pretty much everybody's not happy, but everybody's happier than if it fails. If it fails, one side of the community is going to be like, oh, see, this is why you don't put PC games on console, look at this, and they'll shit on it, shit on the devs, shit on the process of it, and shit on console players. Console players will fire back. Then it becomes a whole new war within the community and creates a headache and a half, while at the same time the devs are trying to fix it now.
I like how Jenny says PC Master Race while playing on an absolute potato.
I mean, I prefer PC myself. So it
was just funny to me. Seeing as there's nobody else in calling, may I squeeze in a third question?
Sure.
So, this is along the same vein of, assuming everything goes, optimistically. Do you see a future where there's a World of Warcraft 2?
No.
Well, World
Now
of
that
Warcraft 2
Microsoft is behind it.
I will say, in the most optimistic view, is it possible? Yes, but what I will say is I don't think World of Warcraft 2 will be any different than... It won't feel any different than a graphical overhaul of an expansion, to me. Like, I would say, like, it would feel like Shadowlands, but with a whole new... assuming they would go to a new engine, which in and of itself would be a headache if they're developing it with the skeleton of WoW 1. They would probably stick to the same engine if that's the case. Or it would just take longer to redevelop from the ground up on a new engine. But regardless, in either sense, they would still try and up the graphics to a substantial degree to make it really feel like a different game. But in terms of the actual meat and potatoes of the content, I don't think, even in the most optimistic projection, it would be any different. With the current team and with the current development process at Blizzard...
Right, this is assuming that Microsoft just goes in and vets literally the entire department.
Oh, if they do that, and if they
gets people in that are passionate about the game again, where they don't have
I
to worry.
still
They don't
think
have to
there's-
worry about creepers, stealing their breast milk and stuff, and they can just focus on making a good game.
if
Still
going
don't
with
think
that,
there's about to.
going with that as the projection, I would say it's, if not highly possible and actually desirable, if they do it well again. Like this is all
Microsoft would be
optimistic.
stupid to not see money in World of Warcraft. Like reviving that title and now having it in their back pocket.
Oh yeah, like
It would be extremely profitable.
Especially if they can retake the crown from FF14. Like, if they can retake the crown under their banner, not only will that serve to be like a rallying banner with the current community, because everybody will be like, oh my god, see, we just had to get rid of the old guard of the Blizzard worst people, and now that Microsoft controls it, look how... Not only would that bring players back in droves, but that would also knock FF14, as much as I like that game better now, personally, that would knock them off the throne. I think.
Oh, yeah.
Honestly,
it's
I
easier
would
to
say it would
retake
be
the
a
throne
battle-
than it is to take
I
it
would
fresh.
I would say it would be an equal battle for the throne at that point.
Well, I will say that if there's anything that FF14 struggles with, in air quotes, comparatively, I would say there are certain gameplay... there is an... And of course, if you're used to it in FF14, you don't have this problem. But if you're an FF14 player currently who was a WoW vet, I think most WoW vets would agree that it was the gameplay loop of like using abilities and the reflexibility of using abilities in WoW was very fun. Now it's a debate whether one is better than the other. One with having more substantial abilities that feel more impactful and are more important. In the case of FF14 with the global cooldown as long as it is, and again, each ability being all the more important with which one you select. And in certain engagements, it does still feel very quick and fluid, whereas in WoW, it was quick and fluid in just how fast you could get at abilities, the momentum you could carry with your attacks, the combinations you could do, especially in older expansions. I'd say that people liked the actual gameplay feel of WoW alone enough that would be a big draw. And especially in the sequel if they brought that back. And if, again, they fixed up the other elements that FF14 blows them out of the water with, like story being the big one, I'd say I agree that they'd be competing. But there's so much like ingrained memories and nostalgia that I think that Microsoft could capitalize on to retake the throne. Just in subcounts, but not necessarily in quality, but certainly in subcounts. If they can work that these are all big ifs, of course. I don't think that this is the most optimistic projection. The more realistic projection, I don't think they're going to do WoW 2 anytime soon, especially with how much money they just spent on the current stuff that Activision Blizzard has. I don't. I don't
I
think.
feel like they would have to take WoW to the end of its lifespan and then write in some kind of world-changing event where it justifies to make the game again, but everything's just a little bit different.
Yeah.
But looks nicer and
I
is
mean,
on a brand new engine and everything.
And as it is, that's what most players were kind of theorizing about when Shadowlands was first kind of pitched, and we learned a
We're
little bit
hoping for.
Yeah, we were like a lot of the community.
Hopium train.
A lot of the people community were hoping that what would happen is we would go to the Shadowlands, we would do that storyline, and then when we would return to Azeroth, we know that time moves differently. In the Shadowlands, or at least in the lore, it moved differently. So the idea was that we would exit it into a new timeline, into like a whole new Azeroth that we didn't know before we left. Of course, now we know that
like a multiverse sort of thing where sort of familiar, but
more like we were in
cryostasis.
cryostasis. More like we were in cryostasis, air quotes, while in the Shadowlands, and we exited to having many years have passed. So a lot of people kind of theorized that that was going to be an excuse to make WoW 2. But unfortunately, that ended up not being the case. They more or less ignored that whole part of it, of time flowing different in Shadowlands and the lore with the actual expansion. And they also connected us directly back with the old world in the lore of the game story. Like we could go back to Azeroth whenever we wanted in game lore, not just as as a systems thing.
Thanks, Chromie.
Yeah. So unfortunately, we could still go back, and that excuse now no longer exists for reinitializing the world. And also, we know the next... Well, we quote-unquote know. There's heavy leaks right now about the next expansion for WoW. I think it's Dragon Isles. And it's already pretty clear that the timeline has not moved forward since we've been in Shadowlands, more than we've already moved it forward. So we're returning to the same timeline we left, and we're just going to another new island, continent, whatever. So there's that. I don't know. For right now, though, I'd say the near future, WoW 2 is highly unlikely. Down
maybe
the line,
they can revive.
Maybe
they can revive what Overwatch was supposed to be, which was supposed to be Blizzard's new MMO.
Yeah, Titan. Titan was the original that was at least a project name. I don't know if that was supposed to be the final name. But yeah, that would have been cool, especially with if you look into like the videos and stuff about what the plan was with
superhero MMOs have always done really well. I mean, just look at like
City of Heroes and Villains
DC MMO.
City of Heroes and Villains, but made by Blizzard. Well, the Blizzard that I grew up with, anyway. Like that would have been amazing. Like I love City of Heroes and Villains was an amazing MMO. If anyone here remembers it, that was just god tier MMORPG. And
yeah, don't get me wrong.
And
Overwatch has a really good gameplay loop, or not. Overwatch has a really good story, but the gameplay loop is kind of boring.
Yeah, and the other problem is it's kind of with the addition of a lot of melee focused heroes, it's become less of a shooter and more of a MOBA, as I understand it. So a lot of people who were a fan of the actual FPS feel of it, the actual like team deathmatch vibe, are less happy with it because now it's essentially become a first person MOBA.
Yeah, I was a D.Va main, so I probably wouldn't like it right now.
I was Mercy. I was a Mercy main mostly when I played it, and I won't pretend I was the best, but at least I had fun. But that was a long time ago. I haven't played Overwatch in years.
I wonder if Microsoft will walk back the McCree name change. Because it's kind of silly, honestly.
And it is silly. Do I think they'll do it? I don't know.
We have to see how hands-on Microsoft plans to be.
Yeah, that's the big thing that we're gonna have to wait for right now.
We don't know whether they're just gonna give Blizzard, guidelines like don't be perverts, and then they'll just give them, absolute autonomy.
Yeah, like
to be their own thing again.
Yeah, we're very highly waiting right now to see what they'll do. I do think they're gonna remain hands-off initially, just until they start getting a little bit of their money back, and then once they feel comfortable making moves,
let the water settle.
Yeah, they've made big ripples with this and just announcing this, so they're gonna give it a little bit, I think.
They're gonna probably wait till some big titles come out to make new announcements because they don't want the stocks to fluctuate too much. Well, hey, that's all the questions I had.
All right. Well, thank you very much for coming on.
Alright, I'll go ahead and step out of line. I don't really see anybody else in line, so you guys have a good day.
You as well.
You too.
All right. If anyone else wants to jump into the call, I'll share the link again in chat. And yeah, feel free, if you don't want to jump on call, feel free to ask questions right in the chat. Yeah, this has been some major. When this week started, I didn't think we would be getting any of this news. This has been nuts. It's been a very nutty week.
Oh yeah.
City of Heroes and Villains was great. Yes, it was. That was such a good game. Like, in my opinion, still the greatest hero MMORPG. Like, I know we have DC Universe Online now, and there was another one. I keep forgetting what it was called. There was another one. It's just, I don't remember who made it. It was a cheaper free-to-play MMO, but which DC Universe Online now is. But yeah, those weren't, in my opinion, those weren't great replacements for City of Heroes and Villains. Like, they didn't capture quite what City of Heroes and Villains did. City of Heroes and Villains, it just nailed everything so perfectly. The flying, speed, super speed, you know, like the mobility stuff related abilities. It also handled the RPG elements as well. The powers, the abilities, the way you could like customize a character's backstory, the vibe of being a villain or being a hero. Like everything about City of Heroes and Villains, especially towards the latter half of its life, was just so amazing. And I'm just so, it's one of those stories where you just look back and you're just so pissed. Unlike with Star Wars Galaxies or with other MMOs like that, where they started going downhill and obviously they weren't sustainable. In the case of Cities of Heroes and Villains, it wasn't going down. Its subs were up. Its subs were going up substantially. But what happened with the reason it got taken down was simply because the parent company that controlled it split into two, and neither held all the rights to Cities of Heroes and Villains, therefore couldn't keep it going. I believe they were, and they'll correct me if I'm wrong, I think it was NCSoft, I think is what they were called. But regardless, City of Heroes and Villains is one of those rare cases where a game falls apart, not because the player base was bad, not because the sub counts were low, not because the revenue was bad, but because the parent company fell apart and broke up into two groups that both contained partial rights to the game, and just because neither could keep it going, they just took it down, which it was such like, in my opinion, if there was a game back in the day that could be the WoW killer, that could be the king MMORPG before FF14 recently took the crown, it would have been City of Heroes and Villains. Like, that just, it was such a fun game.
Yeah. I played it like once or twice.
It was amazing. Oh, I had a villain whose main abilities was summoning, like, you know, gangers to fight for me and stuff while I like shot up the enemy with guns. It was great. Yeah, study effort, so my standard. What I'd like to see now is Blizzard, Microsoft, and Activision to make a new game using all studios. As much as that might sound like just saying that, it sounds like the Avengers are assembling, you know, like, Avengers assemble! And, you know, all the teams come together. In reality, that is a terrible idea. That is a terrible idea. Why? Because these are a bunch of studios that are very far apart logistically, but even if they weren't, these are a bunch of studios being forced to work together with teams that have completely different compositions. Not only of team members, managers, but also styles. Art styles, techniques, animations, developments, processes, procedures. These all vary immensely amongst all these teams. So again, as optimistic as it sounds, like Avengers Assemble, it's more like a bunch of people who have nothing in common assemble.
Pretty much.
Now let's try and make a game together. It's like, that, like, could it work? Possibly.
Is it likely?
But
Not really.
Just as an example of why I think that would be highly unlikely to work out well, if we use the BioWare Anthem example, we know one of the things that happened in development behind the scenes of that game, right, was that that BioWare proper was working with BioWare East or BioWare something like that, the team that works on SWTOR, which was still part of BioWare, but they were a sub team. And it's commonly believed that they had poor communication ability. And again, these are all part of the same studio, technically speaking, just different branches of the same studio. And they couldn't communicate. There was apparently a rivalry between them as well, and a little bit of disrespect going towards the team that worked on SWTOR. Not because the game was bad, but because they weren't BioWare proper. So imagine that, but on the scale of completely different studios. I'd see that just falling apart instantly.
Oh, yeah.
Now, who knows? Maybe in some wicked, weird way, they could get all these teams to communicate properly, email each other, get everybody into a call, and get them all to know each other and have them work together properly. But that alone would take some time. Like, you'd have to test the waters, see how everybody communicates, see if everybody could maintain that team camaraderie throughout such a large project.
Yeah.
But I'm just, in a realistic take on that situation or scenario, I just think it's unlikely as hell that would work out well. I think that would result in quite the horrifying amalgamation of a game. Possibly. The chaos would be fun, at least. I mean, when Jason Schreier would release his expose about the disaster that would happen behind the scenes in such an amalgamation, I'm sure it would be quite the lengthy document. That sounds like the development of FF14 1.0. Let's get all these teams and they never talk to each other mess. Yeah, but again, on a bigger scale. Like, in the 1.0, as I've actually been researching that for a FF14 retrospective video I'm working on, which will take a while to make. But I've been researching that, and yeah, but they were, again, that's an example of they were all within the same studio, which, objectively speaking, means they all have the same procedures, they all have the same general workflow. So they should relatively at least know of each other, if not know each other. But yet they still had communication issues within the same, group, within the same studio. When you break it up to completely different studios, which, again, logistically may be far removed from one another, that have completely different procedures, completely different processes, types of management, it can result in just... It's like that, but more extreme of a problem. Because 1.0 is an example of when it's just communication problems, as well as priority problems. But that's an example of that. I don't even think there is an example that would equate what that kind of posing would be of an idea of all these studios coming together to create an amalgamatory game to that scale. I just think that would be nuts. Well, the thing is, money and pull can only do so much to actually get the teams to work together. I mean, you could wave $1 million in front of someone's nose. It doesn't magically make their personality or their proclivities any more workable with someone else who has completely different ones. Like, this was one of those things where money can't solve it. Like, communication problems, money can help, don't get me wrong. Like, you can, Microsoft can spend money on not only give everybody great pay, so everybody in this theoretical project could walk away well funded, well profited, so they're much more optimistic and much more willing to work together. But even then, there's still like when you have your team, right? I guess it kind of comes with the topic of tribalism. When you have your team, your group that you're used to working with, you have the same procedures, you have the same workflow, you all know the art style you're working with, same software, same everything. And then you work with a team that, like, for example, let's use two teams here. Like, let's say the Square Enix team that works on FF14 works with the same team that makes Diablo. I'm going to put money down that they use very different things. Maybe software is the same. And to be fair, Maya is the most commonly used animation and rigging and software used for creating mops, props, and animation for video games. So let's just assume they use that software. Same software I was trained on. Then that's not the problem. But then you also have language barrier, potentially. You have also time zones. Yeah, time zones. You also have like that nervousness with dealing with team camaraderie. They're a team that are in Japan, so there's a cultural difference as well. And this is an extreme example. Okay, let me use a far more fair example, considering that one has so many problems. Let's use just 2 American teams, or relatively American. Let's say the Diablo team works with the guys. I think they're American. I could be wrong. Are the guys who work on PoE, Path of Exile, American?
I have no idea.
Okay, I think they are. Well, assuming that they're both American teams. There's no language barrier, no cultural barrier, then the problem comes more of consistency of communication. Detail of communication. Like, are you giving the full bit of information? Now, most people, when you don't work in these kinds of environments, I've worked in a similar environment. I worked for the Navy in designing warships, and a lot of people, and I also worked in indie development. But my indie development experience, actually, believe it or not, is less relevant to this specific example. But when I worked for the Navy, working on and updating designs for the Arleigh Burke class destroyers for our Navy, in our team, we had multiple disciplines that were completely different teams. I worked in structural and foundation design, which was just, the raw structure and foundations for all the equipment on the ship. Then there was a hull outfit team. They worked on, composition of, basically they worked on, the placement of certain utilities and equipment on the ship. Then you had the crew that worked on, Welcome Zoid Industries. Then you had the crew that worked on electrical, who worked with all the electrical equipment, and we had to work very closely with them because a lot of our foundations were for their electrical equipment. Then you had one other team that we almost never worked with, and nobody ever worked with them because they worked on the you are not allowed to see this stuff. They worked on the black label stuff, so we didn't even work with them. But with the teams that we did work with, Hell Alpha and Electrical, for example, we were in the same building. The only thing that separated us was a floor. Electrical was, down a floor. Hull Alpha was on the same floor as us, actually. They were just on the opposite end of the room. We fucked up communication with them royally. We were in the same room, spoke the same language. This is before COVID hit, so it's not like we were social distancing. We were literally 20 feet away from the person we were emailing, and we still had communication problems. We still were barely able to get, we were barely able to explain what we were working on one end, so there was lots of mistakes made. Lots of eye checks were failed. I can't actually explain that, I don't think. I'm trying to keep close to my NDA. Most of what I've said so far I am allowed to say. I don't know how detailed I'm allowed to be. I'm gonna remain vague on, the actual work itself. But on what I was specifically working on many occasions, people who I could literally stare at over my cubicle wall would tell me something. I would make decisions and work on my projects in relation to that, and then find out afterwards somehow I fucked up. Because they actually didn't tell me the full story, and they had moved something else in the way of a foundation equipment, and then I got in trouble because they did that. See, this is in the same office. We're all working for the same company that pays us the same paychecks. We reach the same language, and there's still fuck-ups to that degree. So you want to picture taking teams that are nowhere near each other, have no rapport with one another, they're in completely different environments with different procedures, different people paying their paychecks. Yeah, Microsoft may be at the top, but once it trickles down, someone else is paying their paychecks, inevitably. I'm sorry, but if you think that would at all go smooth, I don't care how much money Microsoft has. I worked for the Navy. We had millions of dollars going into our projects, building, and designing these ships, and we were still fucking up on that fundamental level. Money doesn't magically solve the problem. So I'll just leave it at this. In the most optimistic projection, the game would be weird, and
Oh, yeah.
the final result would be weird. In a realistic one, we wouldn't get a game. We would get something that scientists would need to study. That's just my experience in this same exact type of environment, and it's nutty. Couldn't even make a decent Mass Effect game, but maybe that's because they're in Quebec. Jury's still out on that one. I don't know, I'm not gonna throw shade at Quebec. Not because I have any particular reason. I live near Canada. If I can't insult Canadians, I live on the border of with Canada. So if I piss off a Canadian, it ain't that far for them to walk to beat my ass. So yeah, I guess yeah. That's my hazarding rant over with. I've worked in the same exact environment. I just think it would be a shit show. It'd be funny to picture though. Like I do think it would be. I do think the result would be less entertaining than probably like the stories behind the scenes if Microsoft ever tried that.
BioWare Montreal, what all Mass Effect games did they make?
BioWare Montreal. I know they're responsible. Well, I think so. It was Montreal that worked on Deus Ex: Mankind Divided and Human Revolution, right? Wait, no, I think no, sorry, that was fucking Square Enix. I am fucked here. No, they didn't even work on that. I am an idiot. Sorry about that. BioWare Montreal. What have they done? BioWare Montreal games, maybe? Because I didn't get a list of BioWare video games. Okay. Can I get a specific studio, please? What happened to BioWare Montreal was merged with EA. Okay, so maybe that's why I'm not getting results on what they've worked on individually. Yeah, BioWare Montreal got liquidated into Main Montreal. Oh, sorry, I got liquidated with EA's Motive Studios in August 2017. Okay.
Yeah, they were responsible for the DLC of the Mass Effect series as well as Andromeda.
Okay.
So, Kiwi, the reason I was asking, Kiwi said BioWare Montreal couldn't even make a decent Mass Effect game, but maybe that's because they're in Quebec. I mean, in addition to being flagrantly racist, they also did the DLC for Mass Effect. Most of the DLC were good, and Andromeda, played through it once. It wasn't great, but it wasn't bad either. It was kind of meh.
Yeah. Alright. Is anyone in call that I was made waiting during my rant? Or no, okay, we're good. Alright, alright. If anyone has any pressing questions they want to ask or pose before we close out, shoot them out now. Otherwise, we'll call it here.
Speaking out, forever hold your peace.
Wait, what?
What?
Did you say peace or penis?
Yes. You've never heard that?
Speaking forever holds your penis? I've heard it before, but it's stupid.
It is stupid, but see that reaction you got there, like, wait, what? What did you say? Nothing. That's why I do shit.
Silly.
Karn is in the call line.
Oh, okay. Let me put him in. Karn! Welcome aboard. You know the drill, I assume?
Yes, of course.
Alrighty.
So, because we were talking about Andromeda for a second, is it worse for you guy if the game is like absolutely god awful, or if it's just meh? If it's
absolutely god awful, it can oftentimes be memeable, and you can make fun of it. So I would actually prefer a game that is absolutely dog shit bad, assuming it's in the right ways. If it's dog shit bad as in it breaks your console and breaks shit, no, that's way worse. But if it's bad and just it's poorly written, the models fly through the map, random shit happens all the time, like that can be memeable and goofy, and you can kind of laugh off some of your frustration. But if it's just meh, oftentimes if I can, I get a refund on meh games.
Yeah, because meh's fucking down.
Yeah.
I would say somewhere between not Alien Colonial Marines because that blue screen computers, but more in the line of that one Star Trek game.
The third-person shooter Star Trek game?
Yes.
Yeah.
Where you can have like this giant Spock on screen.
Well, like I said, it's been a while since I played it, so I really don't remember. I just remember it being kind of meh. I would have to go through and replay it to honestly have any true opinion on it right now.
Yeah.
Would you play a bad game on stream?
Would I play
Like
Andromeda?
a markable bad game.
It depends. Is
I
there
have played other bad games.
is there money in
Okay.
it?
I don't know.
Will I be paid for my suffering?
If you can ask Bala. Your sugar daddy.
I gotta double check who's sent me more money over the years. I think
It has to be between
Tang and Ball.
Hang and Ball.
Or Captain Caboose. Captain Caboose is up there.
I thought Nathan was up there.
And Nathan also surprised us.
Nathan has done quite he hasn't done as many like big donations, but I think conglomeratory, I think maybe Nathan wins. Certainly on a sheer number of donations, but just actual like
Sugar daddy
girthy donations, I'd say it probably has to go to Tang
You
or
like
Ball.
girthy and heavy?
Girthy. Dragonis is also up there. Dragonis on top of it is also... I don't know, it's hard to say, because Dragonis, Tang, Ball, and Captain Caboose have all dropped like hundreds and 200s and 300s super chats before. So... it's hard to say. With Nathan,
Now I know
Nathan
who
has
to
done
talk to make
one or
play that
two
game.
big donations, and then the rest have been like small increments of like $2 here, $3 here, $2 here, $5 here. So it's harder, like, I would say Nathan is in the running for, like, sheer number of donations, but for, like, girth of donations, it's probably Tang, Ball, Dragonis, or Captain Caboose.
No. Tang might be the one that earns the best from us all.
Probably. He's a scientist, literally. A Bulgarian scientist.
Yeah, Ball, he wants aliens, colonial marines,
Fuck you.
and maybe like some subverse or something. Ah, I'm sorry, my apologies.
Isn't Subverse that porn game?
Yes,
Yes.
it is.
I
The
can't
one-
play. I couldn't play that on stream if you paid me.
I think there's a streamer mode.
What?
I
like,
think didn't Arch
whoa,
stream?
hold on. There's a streamer mode for a porn game. Hey,
pretty-
here's a game. Play the game. And miss out on 80% of the content.
It's not the first
What?
one. I think Cyberpunk. Well, it's not a porn game, but it also has the streamer
No,
mode.
there's a difference. There's a difference between a game that has some like testy scenes in it and a game that is literally designed to replicate porn, like people fucking, penetration, raw dogging it. Like there is a gap between those two. One, you only got to censor the occasional scene. The other one, it's like half the game is now gonna have to be a black screen
Pretty much.
and the sound effects turned off.
The next day. It's going to look like Mass Effect fucking. So, to my second question before we now go into God knows what discussions. What is the worst game you played and enjoyed a lot?
What was the last game, or
The last bad game, like horribly.
oh, the
game
last horrible
that you
game I
enjoyed.
played? Cyberpunk.
That you enjoyed.
Cyberpunk was the last one that was terrible that I enjoyed. If we're going by the
was
last
almost
horrible
easy
game I
enough.
played, if we're going by the last horrible game I played, I think that would also be World of Warcraft I played after that, so probably WoW.
Yeah, but you don't. I don't think I would be able to enjoy WoW anymore.
If you're anything like me, probably not.
I quit during BFA.
I
think
quit
mine-
at the beginning of Shadowlands because I was just fucking done. Like I saw the writing on the wall. I'm like, no more.
By the way, Ludus, you are not allowed to say Dynasty Warriors.
I wasn't going to say Dynasty Warriors. I was going to say mine would probably also be.
Because the thing is, Cyberpunk, the game that's
It has good. It has good bones. Cyberpunk.
that's the thing. Like that's probably the biggest tragedy of Cyberpunk is if the game was just shit to its core, I would just meme on it, call it a day, and ignore its existence. But I think what makes me kind of linger on it a little bit is you can see what it could have been. Like you play it and you just constantly see where they could have made the game better, where they could have improved, where they could have made what they pitched. And it's all the more tragic knowing that that's not going to happen. Even if they'd have to redevelop the game at this point to make the game that they promised.
Zoid, I wouldn't say that an old game would be bad, or what do you mean with that? Because there are plenty of old games that play great.
And I would say a lot of older games are examples of better games that we got now. I mean,
Half-Life 2.
yeah, Half-Life 2 had great story, great gameplay, very smooth, works
GTA
great.
Vice
Team
City.
Fortress 2, great team shooter that's really, really fun. And still played quite a bit today. Not as much as it used to be, obviously. You know, it hasn't been touched in a long time, so obviously it's not going to be as played.
Total War Rome or Shogun for people that
Total
are
War
like
Shogun 2 is really good. I mean, older games are just generally awesome. Like, most of those games also work.
Yeah. Gothic 1 and 2 are fantastic games that I would never tell anyone
I mean,
to play.
Although a case of example of an older game that isn't the greatest gameplay-wise, but is absolutely fantastic story-wise, Legacy of Kain.
Yeah. Silent Hill 2. Horrible gameplay, great as story.
As much as I hate to, Asmo, I gotta jump out.
Yeah, yeah, go ahead. That's fine.
Alright.
I'll wrap it up.
See you later, Ludus.
Yeah.
Yep.
And again, congrats for the baby.
Yes, thank you.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you as well.
Name it Asmo Jr.
I won't.
Remember, a good Jewish upbringing for him.
You know what? I will. I will name it Asmogan if it's a girl because that'd be fitting.
Oh, that poor girl.
I mean, I am a badass bitch.
The boss bitch around.
Taylor did not find that fun.
Which part?
I doubt she would because that was pretty damn stupid.
Well, no, she didn't find it funny because she's already kind of having a shit day. People have been treating her like shit today, so that's actually kind of what happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My apologies to her.
No, it's all good.
Tell her she has our full support and backing.
Esmo said you have their full support and backing.
And tell her that everybody who's giving her shit can fuck off.
That everyone who's giving you shit can fuck off.
From the heart.
From the heart.
You shouldn't give shit to pregnant women. You should give them chocolate.
But, yeah. Y'all have a good one.
Yeah, everyone, man. Alright,
Well, this is awkward.
why?
Nah. Oh, well, I think that's it. I know. Yeah, now you have a nice quote there.
I'm a badass bitch. Asmogan. 1/19/22. Exactly.
Well, so that were my questions.
Alright,
See you
well,
later, my dude.
thank you, Karn. Have a good one. Always a pleasure to have you on. Alright, I think that's a good place to call it. Thanks to everybody who participated in the stream. Make sure before you guys head out, leave a like, support the podcast as well as the channel. Make sure to also, subscribe if you're new to the channel. Always good. We always do a GT weekly podcast every week. We don't always cover news. Sometimes we just pose questions of geekdom, like talking about this universe, versus this universe. We just talk about our favorite series of, this, that, or the other. We just generally talk geekdom here on Geeky Theoreticus, but we do very regularly talk about the latest news in the gaming sphere, as well as just the geek sphere in general. It also applies to comics and other animations, other things like that. So we'd be happy to have you guys on all future streams. We usually do them on Wednesdays at around noon Eastern Standard Time. Be very happy to have you. Outside of the GT podcast, this channel also hosts a very large set of content from me personally. I do machinima on occasion, trying to get some done right now. I also do comedic videos from time to time, and lately I've been I stream very regularly on this channel. Many different things, miniature painting being one of them, and also gaming primarily. Right now, also playing primarily Final Fantasy XIV, as well as a myriad of other things I touch on here and there. But yeah, I think that's my spiel. Thank you all so much for being an amazing, sexy, fantastic audience. And I will catch you guys tomorrow, actually. Nope, tomorrow's the editing day. Almost forgot my schedule this week. Yep, tomorrow is an editing day, so hopefully you guys will get a video out from me tomorrow. But outside of that, I will see you guys. Friday for a miniature painting stream. Saturday for a co-op stream with me and my buds just playing a game. Don't know what it's gonna be yet. And Sunday for the next FF14 stream. Otherwise, I'll catch you guys later. Bye.